Lesson 3.5, Dividing Rational Numbers. First, we'll talk about dividing fractions. Remember, we're going to use our multiply-divide rule. So if we're dividing numbers with the same sign, the answer is positive, or if we're dividing numbers with different signs, our answer is negative. Now, dividing a fraction is the same thing as multiplying by its reciprocal. To remember this, we can use KFC. We keep the first number as is. We flip the second one, which is the reciprocal. That's what reciprocal means. You're flipping the fraction. You're turning it upside down. So we keep the first one, we flip the second fraction, and then we change from division to multiplication. Look at example 1. Example 1, we have 2/3 divided by -5/9. Remember, we can read this horizontal fraction bar as divided by. And so I have the top number, 2/3 divided by -5/9. By looking at this problem, I see that I am operating with different signs, right? And so different signs, I know my answer, or here my quotient, is going to be negative. Now let's follow KFC. I keep the first fraction as is, so 2/3. I flip this one, so instead of 5/9, it's going to be 9/5. And then I change from division to multiplication. Okay, now let's see if I can cross simplify. 2/5, no. 9/3, I know that's the same thing as 3/1. Now I multiply the top numbers. 2 times 3 is 6, and 1 times 5 is 5. And remember, we have a negative answer, right? -6/5. Or we could say, if we make this mixed, it'd be -1 and 1/5. That is our answer. And number 2, we have -4/7 divided by -5. I see that I have same signs. Same sign, I know my answer will be positive. All right, let's follow KFC. I keep the first fraction, 4/7. Since I know the sign of my answer, I can simply ignore the signs now. So 4/7, this is 4/7 divided by 5, or I could write 5 as a fraction by putting it over 1. Okay, so I'm going to keep the first fraction, 4/7. I'm going to flip this one, so instead of 5/1, it's going to be 1/5, and then I change from division to multiplication. I look and see, can I cross simplify? 4/5, I can't. 1/7, I can't. And so I simply multiply across. 4 times 1 is 4. 7 times 5 is 35. We said we would have a positive answer, so this is our answer, positive 4/35. I cannot simplify that. That is in simplest form. Number 3, -7/8 divided by 7/4. So let's keep this first one, 7/8. Flip the second one, so it'll be 4/7, and change from division to multiplication. All right, 7/7 can cross simplify because that is the same thing as 1. What about 4/8? Well, 4/8 is the same thing as 1/2, right? Or 1/2. Now multiply the top. 1 times 1 is 1, and on the bottom, 2 times 1 is 2. And what should my sign be? I have two negatives, or I have the same sign, so my answer is positive 1/2. And number 4 here, we're operating with mixed numbers. When you operate with mixed numbers, I would suggest making them improper and then operating. So to make them improper, let's use the C method. 5 times 6 is 30, plus 1 is 31, all over the original denominator of 5. Okay, and then here I have 10 times 3 is 30, plus 1 is 31, all over the original denominator of 10. Now the sign of my answer is going to be what? I have negative number divided by positive number, so different signs, I know my answer will be negative. Okay, now let's follow KFC. I keep this first fraction, 31/5. I flip the second one to be 10/31. And then I change from division to multiplication. I know 31/31 can cross simplify, right? Because that's the same thing as 1. What about 10/5, or 10 divided by 5? That's the same thing as 2, or 2/1. Now that I've cross simplify, let's multiply. 1 times 2 is 2, and on the bottom, 1 times 1 is 1, and if the denominator is 1, it's not needed. And we said my answer would have a negative sign, so -2 would be my answer. Dividing decimals. When you divide decimals, you cannot have a decimal outside the division bracket. So in this first example, I have 5.5 over 0.5, or again, the horizontal fraction bar can be read as divided by. So top number goes inside the division bracket, 5.5 divided by 0.5. So as you can see right here, we have a decimal outside the division bracket. That cannot happen. And so if this is the case, I need to multiply, in this case, by 10 to get rid of the decimals, because multiplying by 10 is the same thing as moving the decimal one place to the right. And so if I move the decimal on this number to the right one space, then I must also move the decimal on this number one space to the right. And so after I move the decimals, rewrite your problem so that you can see what it is now. 5.5 is now 55, and that's being divided by not 0.5, now it's being divided by 5. And 55 divided by 5, I know that because of my fact fluency, that is 11. Number 2, 0.4 divided by 2.5. And so this is the same thing as 0.4 divided by 2.5, right? Top number inside, bottom number goes outside. I see that my number outside has a decimal in it, and so I need to move the decimal one place to the right. Move the decimal one place to the right on both numbers, right? Do the same thing to both numbers. So now inside you have the number 4, and outside you have the number not 2.5 but 25. So I have 4 divided by 25. Now I'm going to have to add a decimal and placeholder zeros so that I can continue to divide, right? We've already done this before. The decimal goes straight up into the answer. 25 cannot go into 4, right? It's too big, it goes in 0 times. 25 goes into 40 one time. 1 times 25 is 25. I subtract, bring down the next digit, and 25 goes into 150 exactly 6 times, right? So my remainder is 0, and my answer is 0.16 or 16 hundredths.